This is Plant-Based Briefing. Vegan Cats 101. Nutrients, not ingredients, is what really matters. Part 1. From Vecado.ca. And I'm Marian Erickson, and this is the curated content plant-based podcast, where I narrate articles on plant-based, compassionate, and sustainable living with permission in about 10 minutes or less every weekday. And today's article is a bit longer than most, so I'm splitting it up into 2 parts, part 1 today and part 2 in the next episode. And I can't believe this is episode 200 already. Wow. I love seeing the stats, and I love that the listenership is growing and there are listeners in 74 countries now. That's so cool. And I thank you all for listening and sharing and supporting with ratings and reviews and buying merchandise at plantbasedbriefing.com/shop. It all means a lot to me because I love this. I do the research anyway, and I love being able to share it with people who want to hear it. Your ratings and emails and interactions also mean a lot because I'm sitting here on my own in my studio recording these articles, and I'm not interacting with anybody on my show. I'm not doing an interview-style podcast, or I don't have a co-host to banter with. So hearing from you and knowing you're out there listening means a lot. Thank you so much. And today's article is from Vecado.ca. They're a plant-based pet food distribution company in Canada. Their goal is to enable people to live their values by providing their dogs and cats with vegan food that's healthy and has no negative consequences on other animals or the planet. They help make these plant-based products more affordable and accessible by importing them in large quantities and then passing the savings on to their customers. They also do a good job of educating people on plant-based nutrition for cats and dogs. They have blogs and video interviews with scientists and veterinarians. And they and all of their suppliers are 100% vegan companies. And today's article is about vegan cats. If you haven't heard yesterday's episode, it was about vegan dogs, so you might be interested in that one as well. So now let's get to today's plant-based briefing. Vegan Cats 101. Nutrients, not ingredients, is what really matters. Part 1. From Vecado.ca. The word vegan for many is associated with tomatoes, cucumbers, and other veggies. When thinking of cats, we think carnivores, hunters, and sharp instincts. No wonder, then, that putting the 2 words, vegan and cats, in the same sentence has been the subject of many heated debates. In this post, we'll reconcile the 2 words in 4 ways. By comparing 2 formulas, a meat-based formula and a vegan formula, by comparing the physiology of cats and dogs, by reviewing studies, and by looking at other considerations. The 2 formulas. The meat-based formula in our comparison is a typical cat food formula, Purina Friskies Savory Selections. The vegan cat food formula is Evolution Diet Gourmet Fondue. To help with the comparison, we'll group the ingredients into 3 categories. Animal-based sources provide protein and fats, plant-based sources provide proteins, fats, carbs, and fiber, and produced in a lab, vitamins and minerals and certain amino acids. You can view the full comparison with a link in the show notes, but I'll summarize the table here. For animal sources, the meat-based formula has meat and bone meal for protein and fat, beef tallow preserved with mixed tocopherols, a form of vitamin E, for fat, turkey byproduct meal, protein and fat, fish meal, protein and fat, and animal liver flavor. The plant-based formula obviously has no animal sources. For plant sources, the meat-based formula has ground yellow corn, soybean meal for protein, and corn gluten meal for protein. The plant-based formula has whole grain oatmeal, high-protein maize gluten meal, high-protein soybean meal, pea protein, potato flakes, molasses, yeast, rosemary extract, yucca shindingara extract, and kelp meal. For the made-in-the-lab ingredients, I'm not going to read them all because there are 29 in the meat-based formula and 38 in the plant-based. In the meat-based formula, however, there are things like potassium chloride, niacin, vitamin A supplement, but there are also things like added color, taurine, red 40, yellow 5, blue 2. In the plant-based formula, there are none of those added colors, but a number of additional supplements, including taurine. The first glance at the table immediately tells us that vegan cat food is not simply a salad mix. It is an advanced formula composed of numerous ingredients. Furthermore, note that in both formulas, the majority of ingredients are actually made in the lab. Notably, taurine, an amino acid critically important for cats' eyesight and cardiovascular function, is produced in the lab and added to both diets. The heavy supplementation in both diets is the result of compliance with Association of American Feed Control Officials, AAFCO, cat food standards. AAFCO prescribes that cats have to have certain amounts of vitamins and minerals, and hence the heavy supplementation. Pet food regulators, for example, AAFCO in North America, FED-IAF in Europe, do not say which ingredients to use. All they say is the amounts of nutrients that have to be present for a cat or dog to be healthy. Whether the nutrients come from meat or from plant-based sources is irrelevant from the regulatory perspective. Furthermore, both formulas obtain protein, wholly or partially, from plant-based sources. For example, soybean meal and corn gluten meal in Purina are rich sources of plant-based protein, and that contribute to the overall protein content in that meat-based formula. So using plant-based proteins is not a new practice. The meat-based kibbles have been using them for a long time. Of course, Purina also contains meat meal, bone meal, fish meal, and turkey meals, while gourmet fondue does not. The question then is, if we are to source proteins from plant-based sources alone, will the cat be okay? To answer that question, we'll need to look at protein structure. Proteins are composed of amino acids. AAFCO prescribes the ideal amino acid profile for obligate carnivores. You can view the table outlining the percentages required for kittens and pregnant cats and for adult cats linked here. The only essential amino acid for cats that is hard to find in plant-based sources is taurine. All other amino acids can be found in plants in abundance. And so the only way to meet the taurine requirement for vegan cat food is to add synthetic taurine. Adding synthetic substances doesn't sound very natural. However, Purina and all other producers also add synthetic taurine in meat-based foods because during the manufacturing process, the natural taurine is baked off from animal ingredients due to high temperature and pressure. As a result, both formulas use synthetic vegan taurine. And with this addition, the amino acid profile of plant-based proteins becomes complete and 100% sufficient for cats. By comparing the two formulas, we have established that properly balanced vegan cat food is not a salad mix, but rather an advanced formulation. The majority of the ingredients in both formulas are actually made in the lab to meet AAFCO standards. Both meat and plant-based kibbles use plant-based proteins, which are very much digestible and palatable. And the amino acid profile of plant-based proteins becomes complete with the addition of synthetic taurine, which is used in both meat and plant-based diets. Overall, looking at the fundamental nutritional blocks, proteins, fats, minerals, and vitamins, the two formulas are not that much different, and both meet the requirements of AAFCO. Veterinarian Perspective. In support of properly balanced vegan diets, veterinarian Dr. Armighty May states, quote, "Cats and dogs have nutrient requirements which are not the same as ingredient requirements." The implication here is that although cats are carnivores, they do not need specific ingredients such as meat or fish, and instead they require specific nutrients, specific amino acids such as taurine, fatty acids such as arachidonic acid, etc. Professor Andrew Knight, a prominent veterinarian and scientist, re-emphasizes the same point about nutrients. Quote, "Cats, and indeed all species, require specific nutrients rather than specific ingredients. There is no reason why diets comprised entirely of plants, minerals, and synthetically based ingredients, i.e. vegan diets, cannot meet the necessary palatability, bioavailability, and nutritional requirements of cats." You just listened to Vegan Cats 101, Nutrients, Not Ingredients is What Really Matters, Part 1, from Vecado.ca. And this is Plant-Based Briefing, and I'm Marian Erickson. Tune in to the next episode to hear the second half of this article, talking about the physiology differences between cats and dogs, studies backing up vegan cat nutrition, and some other important considerations like urinary health, recalls, and some other things. So please rate and review this podcast, please share it with others, and thank you for listening.